make a statue of myself lying on my back, grinning horribly, and thumbing my nose at you know who. Okay, yeah, I think that about covers it. Hello, my grand falloon, and welcome to Class 2. I can see myself in the live stream now about 30 seconds ago, staring stupidly into the middle distance, so you're welcome for that. Now, let me start off today's episode, as you recommended, is Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut. Let me say something. I am no fan of Mr. Kurt Vonnegut. I keep his picture on my wall to remind me that even an amateur asshole can get published. I keep a bound collection of his entire collected works just to remind myself what garbage looks like if somebody wants to become a real writer. I drink my coffee out of a mug with his face on it, just to remind me to wake up and work harder. No, I love Kurt Vonnegut. I am so happy that this is the way things shook out. And if you've never read Kurt Vonnegut, then man, I am actually kind of jealous of you that you get to do all this again. So I think it's kind of interesting that we are reading this book the same week that John Prine died, because I am not the first person to draw connections between the wit of John Prine and the wit of Kurt Vonnegut, two men who I guess you could call secular humanists that still found a real beauty in the paradox of being alive and how sad and great everything was at the same time, how everything is beautiful and nothing hurts, and we know that that's always a lie. I want to say hello to Rachel Dendy, to Aaron Wernsman, to Lynn Norris, to Scotty Johnson. Scotty and Aaron, are you guys watching from different rooms? You're both saying hello to me right now, and I do appreciate it, but I hope you guys are hanging out. To my mom, Joan, who's always the first person at every show, regardless of whether or not I'm playing music or talking about books. She also comes to my high school classes, which is a little weird. Mom, you gotta stop. And Tom Butine, I assume, is the TomTom84 that is also watching. So let us get started. First of all, let's start with a segment I am calling About Uncle Kurt. Oh, how about that? Look at we start there. Left to right's hard. About Uncle Kurt. Yeah, you better get used to that because those things are going to be popping up. So, Kurt Vonnegut is a veteran of World War I, one of the survivors of the Dresden bombing. Some people call it the Dresden Massacre. He was an American POW along with 5 other men in Dresden, Germany. When the Allies decided to bomb it, it was not well defended because it was a shipping port, but was considered a civilian target, and was considered one of the largest atrocities committed by the Allies in World War II. 25,000 civilians died. So Vonnegut wrote about that later on in the book Slaughterhouse-Five. That was his first big one. He struggled for about 10 years as a writer. His mother killed herself. He adopted his sister's 3 children when she died of cancer, and her husband died in a train accident. So he had 3 children of his own. No stranger to tragedy, raising 6 kids on whatever he could sell to sci-fi magazines. He was employed at GE. He thought it was soul-sucking work, and he quit to write full-time. Player Piano was published in 1952. That's his first book. Didn't gain commercial success until his 6th work, which is Slaughterhouse-Five in 1961. That made him kind of a darling of the anti-war movement. He taught at Harvard. He was an anti-war icon, wrote several more books, and was a vocal opponent of stupid wars everywhere up until his death in 2007. He was writing about and talking about the invasion of the Iraq War. I first saw him on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, and if he was good enough for Jon Stewart, he was good enough for me. I'm going to check the Tom Tompkins. I'm sorry. Tom Tompkins. You're my boy, Tom. I like my wife jumping on that grenade in there. Let's see. I see Danny. I see Paul. How are you, Paul? Good to see you. So, I'm going to move on. Well, actually, tell me in the chat, what have you read by Vonnegut? Did you actually read Cat's Cradle this week? Is this your first experience with Kurt Vonnegut? If not, are you a long-time reader or kind of dip in and out? Clint Buck, welcome to the show. Wish your wife and your baby on the way very well. And when baby gets here, we will say, welcome to Earth, baby. Yeah, these glasses are really just to look like Kurt Vonnegut. I've got to wear them until a segment we do a little bit later on for scene consistency, but they also kind of help me look at light all day long. So we're moving on to Kurt Vonnegut's wit and wisdom. Actually, no, let's make some drinks so that I can continue to drink along with, for shot continuity in a segment we're calling... There it is. Getting lit for lit. You like that? All right, so we're going to go to bar cam in a thing that is totally filmed right now and was not done earlier this afternoon. Let's see if this works. Aha, good scene transition. All right, everybody, welcome to bar cam. This is definitely a direct continuation live from where I was just standing and not a pre-recorded segment. We got a couple of drinks that we are going to make over here. The first one, as far as I know, is the first drink titled Ice 9. So we got kind of a sci-fi thing going on. We want to pay a little bit of respect to Uncle Kurt with a Scotch-based drink. Also make this thing look like it's got kind of a sci-fi fizz going on. As far as I know, I'm the first person to come up with a drink called Ice 9. You guys can hear me go over this. This is cool. Suck it, bartenders of Indianapolis. I can't hear myself. Where Kurt Vonnegut was from. So the first thing we're going to do, follow my recipe here. I'm going to take 2 ounces of a relatively inexpensive scotch. I know some people think mixing a scotch is sacrilege. Uncle Kurt's favorite scotch was Cutty Sark, and this is a close imitation. It's the famous grouse Smoky Black, so inexpensive enough to feel good about mixing. So what we're going to do next is take some lemon juice, pre-squeeze. That should be fresh. All right, we're going to take some of the same honey syrup we used last time. This is boiled water mixed with honey in a 1-to-1 ratio until it cools off. We're going to take this, I think the recipe says, a quarter of an ounce of that. I actually like to do about half an ounce. This can afford to be a little bit sweeter. And then the big difference between this and the Scotch Violet, the crucial ingredient of a violet is going to be a creme de violet. This is a floral liqueur. Is pretty tasty. It only comes in the big bottles, so I wouldn't go out of your way to get it, but there's a great gin drink whose name I cannot remember that you also make with this stuff. So we did about 3/4 of an ounce pour of that. And then to set it apart from the Scotch Violet, what we've got here is an egg white. I know some people are a little bit nervous about putting an egg white in their drink. If you are one of those people, then don't do this. This drink is totally fine without that. I'm going to be right back. I need to talk to my mixer. It's cool. I found it. So what we're going to do is we're going to shake this without ice first. And what this does is that lets that egg, there's an official bartending word for it, but it gets it good and foamy before you put the ice in. And that's really the purpose of the egg in the first place. So we're going to do that for a little bit. Then we're going to drop in our crushed ice. Okay. All right, and then we're going to give it another shake. Shake that for about 10 or 15 seconds. And then what I've got here, what I'm pouring it over, are these Scotch rocks. These guys are kind of a metal that you put in the fridge or the freezer, and what that does is it keeps your scotch from burning against ice. But I think it's going to work really well right here to play off of our drink. So now we got this silver, purplish, foamy looking concoction over these silver ice cubes. And one thing that I thought about doing, it's not a necessity right now because we're in quarantine, but putting a little bit of dry ice in this, having it foam up a little bit. That is surprisingly tasty. You got some smoke, you got a little bit of sour in there, you got that creaminess from the egg. Yeah, I'm happy about that. The next drink that we're going to make is Uncle Kurt's favorite, and so we're just calling that Uncle Kurt. So what you're going to do is take a container. In this case, it is my Kurt Vonnegut coffee mug. I've had 2 different people give me this coffee mug, and the reason is because I have good friends. So I keep one in my classroom, and I keep one at home. So you're going to take your scotch, which is very important. you're going to pour 2 ounces of that scotch over ice in your coffee mug. Not the school one, not during school hours. Let's make that clear. Then you're going to take your water. I think Kurt Vonnegut especially used tap from Indianapolis. So you take 2 ounces of that. You're going to pour that in. And yeah, that's it. That's 1 part water, 1 part scotch. Oh, I forgot the other part. Oh, let's move that text over so that you can actually see it. Very important part about the Uncle Kurt is that you had to pour that promptly at 5:30. Now, it is not 5:30, so technically this is not a real Uncle Kurt, but you know, it'll do. So we've got our Ice 9 here. We've got our Uncle Kurt right here. Let's go ahead and get back to talking about Cat's Cradle. Oh man, yeah. We're back now. I walked back over there. There must have been something. Aaron doesn't seem to be a big fan of this drink. I'm for it. This drink that I just made. Susie, you're welcome. It's always good to know when your assistant superintendent finds your page as you remove the text that says "Getting lit for lit." All right, so. But no, seriously, welcome you guys, and happy Friday night. And yeah, Susie, that particular mug is reserved only for coffee. So, if you are new to Kurt Vonnegut, that brings us to a segment that we are calling the Kurt Vonneguide. Are we sticking with that? Did we workshop that at all? No? Lamp that I'm talking to? Okay, Kurt Vonneguide. So, in the Kurt Vonneguide, actually, let's see. Yeah, I want to talk about some of Kurt's best quotes. Oh, we lost one great pun in there, which was the Kurt Voiceget. I forgot to type that one in. But one thing that you'll notice as you read Kurt Vonnegut is that his voice as a narrator is strong. You can hear him in almost all of his main characters. Some of the favorite quotes that I have from him: when he was 83 years old, he gave an interview with Rolling Stone magazine and said that he was going to sue Pall Mall cigarettes. They asked him why, and he said, "Because I'm 83 years old, the lying bastards, on the package they promised to kill me." One of them, the quote that I have above my classroom actually is, we are what we pretend to be, so we must be very careful what we pretend to be. And that is said by a man who is undercover as a Nazi, who starts to have some Nazi thoughts. And lately we have dearth people in the United States, not a dearth, that was the wrong word, a glut of people in the United States pretending to be Nazis, which, you know, still not cool. So we are what we pretend to be. Love that quote. One of my all-time favorite insults from Kurt Vonnegut, if you have kids watching, it's time for them to go to bed, is why don't you take a flying fuck at a rolling donut? That is a tremendous, tremendous quote, one that I love. And then one that his uncle always said that I love: if this isn't nice, what is? With the idea that we do not often enough stop when our lives are going very, very well and say, if this isn't nice, what is? I think that's a wonderful piece of philosophy to bring into our lives. So we're going to move on to the best of Kurt Vonnegut's works, and I got a little guide here as far as what you might want to read next. Let's see if this slideshow does work. Awesome. Okay, so Sirens of Titan is a great one. It's like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but American and better. I said it. Oh, and first, yeah, Douglas Adams totally ripped this off, and it's a really tremendous book. Slaughterhouse-Five is a painful reflection on the absurdity of war, even the good ones, even World War II. Also, alien abduction and porn stars. So that's cool. Hold on. Did James Franco read the audiobook? Okay. listen, James Franco, I'm going to need you to stop it. I'm going to need you to stop trying to be literary. James Franco, you are a second-rate pretty boy waste of talent who hasn't done anything good since Freaks and Geeks. Yeah. Doing a bad job of adapting lesser-known works of literary greats is not a substitute for personality. James Franco, you're the John Mayer of actors, and I need you to stop. Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's. Oh, that's a better cover. That's a good one. So it goes. Also a famous Vonnegut quote. My wife loves James Franco. I don't know how she took that. She's kind of shaking her head. I kind of put her on blast. Okay, thank you. Yeah, she agrees. She says he's hot. He's a second-rate pretty boy. Totally. Breakfast of Champions. It's some people's favorite. Your mileage may vary. It's a lot about Kilgore Trout, who is kind of Kurt Vonnegut's alter ego in a lot of this, even though Kurt Vonnegut himself is also in this book. And that one is read by John Malkovich. I'm going to have to check that one out. John Malkovich, you're fine. Okay, Timequake has got some interesting ideas. That's not Timequake, but it's lower on my personal list. I'll never forget my mom, though, lending it to her and her highlighting the passage, ting-a-ling, motherfucker. So I'm glad that she gets the humor. And then Player Piano, let's see. Oh, that's that one. I love this cover, by the way. It's only on a live stream. It's fine. Well, over to the Uncle Kurt. Player Piano, this year's literary criticism reading novel. Vonnegut's first, not the greatest interest to him, the greatest introduction to him at all. And then, let's see, we've also got Man Without a Country. So, let's see, Man Without a Country is a list of his essays along, like, the Iraq War. Oh, don't worry about the beverage. I'm seeing the comments. We got 2 oh my's. Yeah, no, Rachel, we've got a backup drink. She knows. She knows how it goes. She's in theater. She does this live. And guys, if you think this is the first time I have spilled my drink live, you've never been to a Cody Pruitt show. Let's see. The other thing I want to talk about, man, Harrison Bergeron. If you have read anything by Kurt Vonnegut in school, it is probably Harrison Bergeron. Yeah, I got a lot to say about that on why it's not very good, but lots of people, especially in Texas, seem to seize on it because they take it as this is what's going to happen if the socialists rule the world. Kurt Vonnegut, socialist. So yeah, that's not what that story's about, but it didn't stop Jordan Peterson from reading it wrong. So speaking of people that do not get it. Oh, good. Danny is enjoying the cheery laughter of my wife. Yes. Nothing is funnier than a husband's failure. Okay, so that brings us to a section that we are calling For the Kid Who Didn't Read the Book. All right, so you're about to get this spoiled if you didn't finish. But here's the thing, and this is what I tell my high school students. You can't spoil classics. That's why Shakespeare had things like the tragedy of in front of it. I want to know what's going to happen to Hamlet. It says the tragedy of, he's going to die. Sorry if I spoiled that one for you. So Cat's Cradle is about a writer named John who should be named Kurt, who wants to write a book called The Day the World Ended about one of the deceased fathers of the atomic bomb, Felix Heinecker. John finds out through Felix's co-workers that he was working on a project called Ice 9, the drink that I spilled all over the floor, that could turn normal water into a solid at room temperature. This would let troops move out over swamps and mud easily, but had the downside of turning every other piece of water it touched into a solid. John's research into Heinecker leads him into 3 Heinecker children, the dwarf Newt, the giant Emily, and the loser scientist Frank, into the banana republic of San Lorenzo, led by the dictator Papa Manzano. John falls in love with his beautiful daughter Mona and learns more about the band Prophet Bokanon. He's appointed president by Frank and told he'll marry Mona because of Bokanist prophecy and because Frank is trying to dodge any responsibility. However, before his inauguration, Papa almost kills himself with a piece of Ice 9 secretly given to him by Frank, and in an accident during a military parade contaminates the ocean with Ice 9, immediately wreaking global havoc. This brings me to another thing. You couldn't watch a movie with this one. I'm going to check in on the chat right here. Oh, sorry. Does Clint feel attacked? I don't know why Clint feels attacked. I'm sorry, buddy. It's okay. Oh, no, that's That's true, buddy. Husbands everywhere know that. You've just probably been married less than any of us at this point. Okay, so here's the exciting part. Cat's Cradle is being adapted for FX by Noah Hawley. He's the guy that did Fargo and Legion. I've watched part of Fargo and all of Legion, and those are tremendous shows. If anybody's going to do this right, it's going to be him. So that brings me to a segment that I like to call Cast Vonnegut. Yeah, you like that? Cast Vonnegut? The puns aren't going to stop. I'm sorry. You know what you signed up for. So let's go ahead and bring up that casting list. Yes. Okay, so first of all, we've got the narrator, who is pretty much Kurt Vonnegut himself. And I'm trying to think of a young person to cast for him. Get out of there, James Franco. Okay. All right. So Ross Marquand. If you guys watch The Walking Dead, you've seen Ross Marquand. The thing about him is he is a tremendous impressionist. If you are not watching Ross Marquand do impressions on YouTube, you are missing out. The guy's amazing. As a matter of fact, when they couldn't get Hugo Weaving to play the Red Skull in Infinity War, they got Ross Marquand because the dude can imitate anybody. So look at those faces again. Not you, Franco. Yeah, there's young Kurt. Go away, Franco. There's Ross Marquand, right? So pretty good. Next, we've got Newt. So Newt is a dwarf who is said to have remarkable composure and dignity for a little person. And of course, the only person that I can possibly recommend for that is Danny Woodburn. You've probably seen a lot of Danny Woodburn acting before. Guys, there's more than one little person actor out there, okay? Tyrion Lannister does not have to do everything, all right? Peter Dinklage is an amazing human being. He doesn't need every part. However, for Emily, who is 6 foot tall, a little bit awkward, but needs her moments of elegance, come on, it's gotta be Gwendolyn Christie. Just look at her. Look at her being awkward and just like an awesome 6'6" beautiful statue lady. Like, yeah, that part's made for her. Okay, and then the final Heinecker brother, we got Frank. So Frank's a douchebag with a pompadour that can't accept any accountability for himself or anything that he does in life. He just coasts by on what other people have done for him. Oh, hi, James Franco. It's a good place for you to come back. And then Mona. Mona is Latin American, for lack of a better term, princess of a banana republic who convinces everyone that the whole world should share love. Ana de Armas. I love you so much. She's Blade Runner. She was in Knives Out. And if anybody can convince you that the whole world is worth loving, yeah, it's that lady right there. So that is our cast Vonnegut. I'm going to check the chat here. Bob Saget for Kurt Vonnegut. Cameron, was that a joke? Man, is that just a go-to answer? Okay, so let's see. Let's go ahead and talk about the book. I really hope you read it. This is one of my favorites. Everybody and their mom did a thing on Slaughterhouse because I think it turned 50 this year. So I'm really glad that we got to do Cat's Cradle instead. With motifs, we've got unusual coincidences, and one of the great all-time Kurt Vonnegut quotes, that peculiar travel suggestions are dance lessons from God. That is a tremendous quote. We've got the science aspect of things in the government versus practicality, or practicality versus art and spirituality. And Vonnegut seems to be advocating for a form of humanism as a form of spirituality, which is a thing he did throughout his entire life. As a matter of fact, he was a member of, or the president of the Humanist Society. He was co-president with Isaac Asimov, a renowned atheist. And when he was asked to speak at Isaac Asimov's funeral, he led with the line, "Isaac's in heaven now." That is a great joke to tell at an atheist funeral. That's just as good as it gets. I don't care who you are, that's funny. Humanism as a form of spirituality, we've got Bokanon, the amazing prophet, who says fish gotta swim, bird gotta fly, man gotta ask himself why. Tiger gotta sleep, bird gotta land, man gotta tell himself, he gotta understand. Bless you. I think they picked that up on mic. There's a wife sneezing. That's my producer. She's doing good work. She's holding up a card right now. It says, "You spilled a drink." Got it. I spilled a drink, evidently, a little while ago. I don't know if you guys saw that. It's on the floor. Aaron didn't like it anyways. It's fine. So, Bokenism. I love Bokenism, and this is probably why it spoke to me so much when I read it about 10 years ago. It's a religion of human connection versus mythology, fables, and rules. So, Boko Maru, the ritual where people put their feet together to experience intimacy the same way that they experience Mother Earth. That makes sense. I think the narrator says something to the effect of, it's really hard to hate a person after you touch their feet with your feet. It's very true. I do want to read the creation myth because, man, it's just such a great example of Kurt Vonnegut. I'm going to go to page 265. You can follow along. I'm reading this edition. But if you've got another one, the chapters are like a page long, so you can go with this one. This is in chapter 118. So this one says, Bokenon creation myth. In the beginning, God created the earth, and he looked upon it in his cosmic loneliness. And God said, "Let us make living creatures out of mud, so the mud can see what we have done. And God created every living creature that now moveth, and one was man. Mud as man alone could speak. God leaned close as mud as man sat up, looked around, and spoke. Man blinked. What is the purpose of all this?" he asked politely. "Everything must have a purpose?" asked God. "Certainly," said man. "Then I leave you to think of one for all of this," said God, and he went away. That's Kurt Vonnegut in a nutshell. I also, I love the last rites that get issued. It turns out everybody on the island, even though Bokenism is illegal, is a Bokenist. And that includes the man that made Bokenism illegal, which was Papa Manzano. And so this is the passage where he gets the last rites of Bokenon. I'm only going to read half of it. If you read it, it was kind of a call and repeat thing. It looks like this. God made mud. God got lonesome. So God said to some of the mud, "Sit up. See all that I've made," said God. "The hills, the sea, the sky, the stars." And I was some of the mud that got up and looked around. Lucky me, lucky mud. I, mud, sat up and saw what a nice job God had done. Nice going, God. Nobody but you could have done it, God. I certainly could not have. I feel very important compared to you, unimportant compared to you. The only way I can feel the least bit important is to think of all the mud that didn't even get to sit up and look around. I got so much, and most mud got so little. Thank you for the honor. Now mud lies down again and goes to sleep. What memories for mud to have. What interesting other kinds of sitting up mud I have met. I loved everything I saw. Good night. I will go to heaven now. I can hardly wait to find out for certain what my Wampeter was, and who is in my Karis, and all the good things our Karis did for you. Amen. Amen. What interesting mud I have met in my life. There is a ton of them online right now, and one sitting on the couch producing me as we speak. I love that Bokenon is a holy man that doesn't believe in his own mythology. He does believe in the power of rituals. I love the idea of Karis versus Granfalloons, like your artificial communities, like Hoosiers or Longhorns or even kangaroos, versus who God needs you to work with. The passage about the Granfalloon: if you wish to examine a Granfalloon, just remove the skin of a toy balloon. No damn cat, no damn cradle is a great way to describe somebody who doesn't understand a metaphor. I also like how Mona is treated in this book. Mona runs the risk of being like the mysterious, sensual, like woman from somewhere else. However, she's left as genuinely mysterious, not as a beautiful, unknowable woman, but as a woman with her own intentions, and they stay hidden even after she kills herself. Spoiler alert for like the last 10 pages of the book. The narrator understands it's his own fault for falling in love with her, and nothing she did besides be beautiful. I think that's a pretty forward-thinking idea for when this was written, before 50-something. Oh, Scotty, I am sorry. I have offended our Longhorns, who obviously know that UT is a Granfalloon. Or excuse me, a Karis and not a Granfalloon. I have offended. I go too far. I think it's really interesting that before everything goes to hell, They talk a lot about the albatross meat that they shot from the castle, and Papa dies because he takes a piece of ice-9 that was literally hanging around his neck. For you less literary types, or for you people who just don't read the boring stuff since you were in high school, that is all a reference to the rhyme of the ancient mariner, which brings us to great passage: water, water everywhere, and not a drop to drink. So pretty famous lines there. Yeah, Macy, sorry, it gets busy in those last few pages, but it's still worth reading. So crazy thing, the idea for Ice-9, I told you earlier that Vonnegut worked for GE. His brother was the dude that came out with cloud seeding. So the concept of making clouds rain by putting stuff in them, that was Bill Vonnegut. I don't know Kurt Vonnegut's brother's name, but he was a pretty smart dude, and that's where Kurt got the idea of this. So there's also the idea of the main doctor on the island is a former Nazi scientist, and he's trying to make up for what he did by providing comfort. Vonnegut comes back to certain motifs over and over and over again, and they say specifically that this guy is not going to be able to atone for everything he did until the year 3025 at the rate he's going. Later on, Kurt Vonnegut writes a book called God Bless You, Dr. Kevorkian. That is an amazing title. Where fictionally he has Dr. Jack Kevorkian kill him several times to have near-death experiences and interview people that are on their way to heaven. It turns out that everybody goes to heaven, and Hitler is actually sitting outside the doors to heaven because he understands the weight of what he's done and refuses to actually enter. He does not find himself worthy. So this is a really interesting idea that Kurt Vonnegut had of what does it take for a person to realize that they need to be redeemed. I think that's an amazing piece of work. I love the quote: sometimes the pulpa exceeds the powers of humans to comment on. Man, that's a good one, because if you've read the book, you know the pulpa means shitstorm. So yes, sometimes, any possible time in human history, the pulpa exceeds the powers of humans to comment on. And then one of my favorite passages happens in chapter 114. This is the ambassador. And Kurt Vonnegut, throughout his entire career, is trying to figure out how to explain the way he feels about war. He doesn't really do that until Slaughterhouse-5, and my God, it's tremendous, and you should go read it after that. The only reason that I did catch Cradle first was because I hope that you would be hooked enough to go read Slaughterhouse-5 and not stop here. This is what the ambassador has to say, and I think this is closest to Vonnegut's own ideas on what it means to die in war. The ambassador is giving a speech, and he says, "I'm about to do a very unambassadorial thing," he declared. "I'm about to tell you what I really feel." Perhaps Minton had inhaled too much acetone, or perhaps he had an inkling of what was about to happen to everybody but me. This is right before the Ice-9 corruption of the world. At any rate, it was a strikingly bokenist speech that he gave. "We are gathered here, friends, to honor the 100 martyrs to democracy, children dead, all murdered in war. It is customary on days like this to call such lost children men. I am unable to call them men for this simple reason, that in the same war in which the 100 martyrs to democracy died, my own son died. My soul insists that I mourn not a man, but a child. I do not say that children at war do not die like men if they have to die. To their everlasting honor and our everlasting shame, they do die like men, thus making possible the manly jubilation of patriotic holidays. But they are murdered children all the same. And I propose to you that if we are to pay our sincere respects to the 100 lost children of San Lorenzo, that we might best spend the day despising what killed them, which is to say, the stupidity and viciousness of all mankind. Perhaps when we remember wars, we should take off our clothes and paint ourselves blue and go on all fours all day long and grunt like pigs. That would surely be more appropriate than noble oratory and shows of flags and well-oiled guns. I do not mean to be ungrateful for the fine martial show we are about to see, and a thrilling show it really will be." He looked each of us in the eye, and then he commented very softly, throwing it away, "And hooray, say I, for thrilling shows." We had to strain our ears to hear what Minton said next. "But if today is really in honor of 100 children murdered in war," he said, "is today a day for a thrilling show? The answer is yes, on one condition: that we, the celebrants, are working consciously and tirelessly to reduce the stupidity and viciousness of ourselves and of all mankind. That's a tremendous passage, done by one of the people that I think is closest to Vonnegut's voice in the book. As far as our themes go, I'll get us to the last part. Kurt Vonnegut grew up around scientists, with scientists, and knew the idea that science is all about could, not should. It's not a question of science versus religion in this book. It's a question of what keeps science human. Obviously, Kurt Vonnegut thinks that organized religion is pretty ridiculous. Pure materialism won't do it, so our narrator becomes a Bokanist. It's a religion that doesn't believe its own myths, but it makes rituals because it knows it needs them anyways. So, with that being said, I'm going to read the last passage, and I would encourage you guys, if you have any questions, any thoughts, anything at all, then please type it in the chat as I read the last passage here. This probably lets us know what became of our narrator. And again, Macy, I'm sorry. This is still worth reading, but this is the last page. The narrator runs into Bokanon in this world destroyed by Ice 9. And he says, "Bokanon, yes? May I ask you what you're thinking?" "I am thinking, young man, about the final sentence for the books of Bokanon. The time for the final sentence has come." "Any luck?" He shrugged and handed me a piece of paper. This is what I read. "If I was a younger man, I would write a history of human stupidity. I would climb to the top of Mount McCabe and lie down on my back with my history for a pillow. And I would take from the ground some of the blue-white poison that makes statues of men. And I would make a statue of myself lying on my back, grinning horribly, and thumbing my nose at you-know-who." And we do not hear again from the narrator. That's the end of the book, so we've got to assume that that's what happened. So, with that being said, I don't see any questions in the chat, but as always, that is no FOMA. Scotty, Danny says you are Harkaris and your Grand Falloon, and that is actually very true. And both of you, very, very good job of using our vocabulary specific to the book. I don't think I've got anything else for you guys. And I'm almost done with my Uncle Kurt. I gotta go clean up this Ice 9 before it destroys us all. So to that, let's say, until next time, I hope everything is beautiful and nothing hurts. And in the wise words of Uncle Kurt, there's only one rule that I know of. God damn it, you've got to be kind. Aaron, it's all on the final. Life is a time test. I'll see you in 2 weeks. We're doing Macbeth. Bye.